Hello guys, it's Jake from Mics for Tactical. Today I'm going to be showing you how to replace the hammer set on an AAP-01. More specifically, we're going to be looking at the TTI hammer set, okay, which is this one here, and it has a few more components in it than some of the other ones. As you can see, this as I open it, you've got a few more little pieces here than, for example, the Cow hammer set. All right. Yep, you can see those. The most important thing that you'll note, or the most relevant thing that people find that they have issues with, is this singular part breaking right here. Okay, and it's this little nipple that's on the side there. Okay, you can see this this little piece. When that's in, it will spin around and it rotates. It doesn't lock in place. Okay, when that bit snaps, this moves freely, which ends up your AAP firing in full auto compared to obviously doing what it should normally. Okay, so what you can see in front of me here is this is a Maximus kit, but more specifically, it's a 3D printed Maximus kit. Okay, if you're looking at a normal AAP, which is one like this, all right, then you'll see the hammer set assembly is in the same position. All right, so as you can see right here, we have hammer set on the Maximus kit, and we have the hammer set on the standard model. The steps for this are going to be exactly the same, no matter if it's the standard AAP that you're doing it on, a AAP-01C, or a different carbine kit, or you're inserting it into a Maximus kit yourself. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you here how to quickly take this out, and then we'll go through the parts of putting it back in. All right, now it's a little bit fiddly, sometimes you need an extra pair of hands, but hopefully we should be okay to do it today. So getting yourself a punch set or something like this is nice and easy. You don't have to use a punch set. You can just use a standard like screwdriver or anything else, but you need it to be thin enough to knock these two pins out here. Now, being as this is a 3D printed set, I'm going to try to not shatter or damage any of the actual plastic itself, because I'd assume it's a little bit less sturdy than the standard AAP. So once you knock those two pins out, I'm just going to pop them safe. What I will do here is make a pile in the pot for all of our bits that we've just replaced. Okay, so both of those pins, they're going to come out. We're going to pop them in that little pot there. All right, now after doing that, really simply just push in the back of the top cover release. Okay, and you're going to just shimmy, he says, because they've got this one in super tight, you're going to shimmy that whole rear block out. Okay, now being as this is a 3D printed one, it's a little bit tighter there. On the standard AAP, it comes out much smoother. Okay, sometimes I find releasing or pulling the trigger can help in just assisting that to come out. Now that trigger block, the trigger bar, sorry, sits on the back of this assembly here and operates the little node that you can see sticking out, this bit, by making it swing back and forth. Okay, trying to keep that in focus as best I can. There we go. That's what operates your hammer. Okay, right, now you'll see here you've got a sear spring and your sear bar just there. They can go back in, but we do need the spring. We won't need any of the black alloy components. All right, after you get to that point, the next step for us here is to remove the internals of this hammer assembly. Okay, we're going to push this pin out, this one here just at the bottom, okay, that's holding and retaining the spring, and this other piece here. So push them through. Once you take that out, it should come out really smoothly. It's not too stiff on that one. Pop that into the pot. Try and capture your spring. There we go. And the other part here, which is this part, that can come out. Save the spring for later. So what I'm going to do here is just put these two springs next to the steel parts that we're going to be inserting. Okay. Next is removing this bar just here, and it only pushes out one way, which is on this side. Okay, it's got like an enlarged head on this side to stop it from coming through. Now this one again can be a little bit stiff, and that should remove the complete hammer. Sometimes I find if you're moving it this back and forth, it can release tension a little bit, make it a little bit easier for you to push the pin through the whole way. Once you've got that out, again, keep that pin, that bar, a little dowel pin, we'll need that for later, and then you can drop the hammer assembly out. Okay, we need this spring for later. We can disregard these components just here. Okay, right, so we should have technically three little springs that you can see just there, and there we have the final part. Oh, sorry, and there we go, the trigger. That's like this is the knocker valve, knocker bar. This sits on the back of the valve which releases the gas from the mag into the weapon itself. Okay, so we don't need that one because we've got new steel ones of those. Now there is a little piece, the one last piece that you can see hopefully on the camera, which is just here, and this piece sits on a spring. Okay, and that's your auto sear as well. Okay, So what we need to do with this one, your safety seal, whichever one you want to call it, we need to pop this pin out, but there's a tiny little spring under here that's keeping this spring loaded. So I'm going to find the part, which is this one here, and you can see it has a little nipple at the front and there's a little line at the back. Again, that's the way the spring sits in it. The spring itself on this one sits into the grooves of this. Now the easiest way that I find to do this is keep that one face down exactly as it would be in the profile of this. Okay, I'm going to push my spring through, my pin through, whilst holding those parts. Keep that pin because we'll need that. Okay, now I'm going to remove this with the spring. Just removed it just there, look, with the spring still in its place. Okay, keep hold of your housing, and now I have that in position. It's really easy to get this spring backwards or to turn it the opposite way. So all I'm going to do now, if you can see clearly, is take this spring out and put it back into so you can see there's the pin, there's the spring, okay, which is running around and it's going there, and the bit's coming out the bottom. It'll always be the time I'm trying to record it and I can't get it in, eh? Right, now I'm going to leverage that spring against the metal and just put that into place there. Pop that pin through. Fingers crossed. We're in. There we go. Put that pin through. Make sure it's seated all the way. Right, there we are. Apologies on that. That took a lot longer than it needed to. I'll probably maybe clip a bit of that out or not. We'll see. Right, so you should pop in and down like so. But again, that's probably one of the trickiest parts. Now, if I'm being honest, sometimes it's not important to change this little bit. Very rarely will this actually break, or very rarely have I seen it break on an AAP. But whilst you're here taking the whole thing apart, it's worth doing. However, just be prepared. That one is going to take the longest, okay, to do out of them if you've not done one before. I've done probably upwards of 30, 40 of them. Sometimes, as you can see, when I get the camera out, it still catches me off guard, all right? So the rest of it then. So now this is the next part, okay? So we have here, obviously, the hammer block, and we need a little bit of metal there that pops in the top, okay? And that obviously is your hammer, okay? Your hammer assembly. That bit sits in here, but first we'll have to put the spring on, okay? So this one, a little bit easier of a spring, okay? All we need to do is pop the spring going around, okay? Just hooked on that little bit of metal there, and this longer piece ready to catch at the bottom, which will seat into the hammer assembly housing, okay? And that little piece of metal here, this little part of the spring, will sit just on this little piece here. The way I do it is I push it through to the point where it's lapped onto the top there. You can see it's now coming out the back end just under there, and then line up the holes of the hammer just there, okay? Now obviously you need your next pin for this one, and it is a pin with a fat end again on the one side, which is this one here. It's beveled at one end, smoothed off, and then flat on the other side, okay? Pop it into this bit, and what we're looking for that is to recess in, and you have to move the hammer back and forth to get that in, okay? Once it's in partially, not all the way through, just like so, okay, you should be able to see through under here. Cool. And we're going to now drop this piece in, okay, into the little hole down the bottom. And if you can't get it in, just pull the hammer back. If this pin's too far through, it won't seat in. You can probably just see how it jumped into place there. Okay, so once that's in, you can put your pin all the way through. Okay, next piece, this steel piece here. Okay, that is going to sit just on the right hand side, like so. And then next, we need to put our spring in. Now the spring needs to seat just in this gap here, and as you can see, the bar of the spring needs to sit on that silver plate that's just underneath. Okay, I'm trying to show you that it's moving it around. Okay, so what I'm going to do first to secure that in is put our pin back in, this pin on the side, put that through the spring. Okay, it's quite a loose spring, and there you can see this spring here is moving back freely, but actually under there is a spring that sat on that silver bar at the back, okay? And that, there we go, if you can see it there, that little spring is sat on that silver bar, which means that it puts pressure against this part here to bring it backwards. Okay, yeah, trying to get a better angle of that if you can see. Lovely, cool. Right, this spring that I've got just on top of my thumb here, just see it right there, okay? That needs to hook through that bar there. Again, this is something that normally I would pull the hammer back to do, and you'll see now the hole here kind of pops out a little bit, okay? And I'll just hook it over with my thumb. I have to pull that down to do it. Right, now looking at it here, you'll be able to see it maybe a little bit clearer. But that bar is now hooked into this piece here, okay, on the side. Yep, now I'll do a little test. So make sure that your safety sear is all the way down, and then push this little piece here, and the hammer should come up, okay? And that's what your trigger bar does. Your trigger bar engages that piece. Push it down again. If you push it too far down, all the way down, trigger bar won't do anything. You have to then release this sear here. Release the sear's working. Push that back, hammer's working. Perfect. So one click, back in place, all sorted, nice and simple, okay? Next we have the spring, which is here, and also the auto sear, which is there. Okay, and that's those two pieces in together. Now be careful, that is likely to spring out, so just be aware of that. Then all we're going to do is put that back into the top of the AAP, okay? But we are also going to line up the trigger bar on the side. Try to do it with my other hand, so I'm normally doing it this way. So we want the trigger bar to seat just in there, okay? As we push that down, obviously making sure that our auto sear is in place and our trigger bar is in place. Now the last little bit is this here at the rear has to come in and push in just on the back end of that little lip there, okay? However, we've got to get that trigger bar sat in, because that trigger bar is not currently sat in. Again, just as a reference point, this is obviously a 3D printed kit. It's just a little bit tighter than some of the other sets, okay? I'm trying to do as much of this on camera, but I kind of need to pull it in closer to myself as well to be able to. Big springs poking out. There we go. Cool. Right, hammer in. Check that trigger works. Click it back. Trigger working fine. Okay, lovely. And that rear pusher pin is activated too. Now all we've got to do is put our two pins back through. That one and that one. And now we give that a tap in just to. Right, there we have it. Give it a little test. We have a working hammer, fully replaced and assembled, okay? Obviously, like I mentioned, there's a few little parts there which are a little bit harder to do than the others, so just bear that in mind. If you get stuck with it, again, just pop it into us. We can assist with that. If you buy the parts from us, we will fit them for you. That's no problem. It is something that, again, I've done this probably 30 times and I still struggle every now and then. So this is the 20-minute video so far. I might cut out slightly the bit where we struggled to get the initial first safety sear in, just to make the video a bit smoother. But it's a 20-minute change there, so you can save yourself a bit of time by doing it at home. Normally it's about 5 to 10 minutes to do one of these. I think the pressure of the camera probably just slowed me down ever so slightly. Well, anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed that video. Hope it was informative. And again, if you need any help on this, any questions, whatever, pop into store, give us a shout. Okay, I'll drop it in the comments and I can help for you. But there we go. We have a fully assembled hammer set into the back of an AAP-01.